place in the world for Krishna consciousness. So, I mean, everybody had that expectation. It wasn't that you would sit around as a brahmachari in the temple just eating prasad for the rest of your life. But you'd do something for Prabhupada. And so, that Prabhupada would always ask, what have you accomplished? And I chanted my rounds. It's ridiculous. You got to accomplish something. So Prabhupada always expected us to do wonderful things. It was like when I helped read Anandamar start in South Africa. It was like that. Just basically start from scratch. It was like the wild, wild west. I mean, in Venezuela where I was, if they discovered they were a member of the CIA and they would say saying CIA means CIA. And there, in some countries, there's desperacidos, what's it called? They disappeared people. Desaparecidos. People would just disappear. The secret police would just take them, and you'd never see them again. It was Argentina, especially, was like that. Chile too.
Many countries went through. Yeah, Bolivia, Chile.
Oh, really? I didn't know Chile, but I know Argentina went through that. And Venezuela too. The secret police would just come and attack you. And then, it's interesting. It was like India without the spiritual side. I always say South America is like India without the spiritual side. So we would go. I remember I needed a long-term visa in Venezuela. And I just go and just bribe the head of the immigration there. And just gave money. Anyway, it was a real adventure. I had so many nice adventures in Krishna consciousness. Isn't it? Started, and because devotees were willing to do that, basically the whole world now has temples. Everywhere from China to Russia, Africa, every country in Africa, every country in Europe, because devotees were willing to stick their necks out. People weren't just like into settling down, just going to Vrindavan, the city of Terra Kadamba. Because that's how we were trained with Prabhupada. You stick your neck out, you risk your life, and then you get Krishna's blessings. Anyway, so much for that one. Okay, so it's Narottama Das Thakur's appearance today. And so we'll chant a very nice song written by Narottama Das Thakur called Vaishnave Vyati, which means prayers to the Vaishnavas. Hey Varo Karuna Koro Vaishnava Gosai Patita Pavana Tomaho Vine Keho Nagakai Jarani Kategile Papa Dureja Emona Doyala Prabhu Kiva Kotapai Gandhara Parasa Koile Paschate Bhagavan Shane Pavitra Koro He Tomarada Harisne Aparade Hare Harina Tomastane Aparade Mahi Paritran Tomara Hridoye Sadda Govinda Vishra Govinda Kohena Mora Vaishnava Para Rati Janme Koriyasha Charanera Dhule Narottama Koro Koya Nara Devaro Karuna Guru Vaishnava Gosaye Jaya Narottama Das Jaya Narottama Das Jaya Narottama Das Thakur Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Om Padavaham Charya Satashi His Divine Grace Savaya Charananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Namah Vedas Param Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Srimati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopata Saim Kum Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Vrindavam Ki Jai Jagadada Swami Ki Jai Yamunamari Ki Jai Shrimati Lasadevi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari All glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premananda So we will read the translation. O Vaishnava Goswami, there is no one except you who can purify the fallen souls. Where does anyone find such a merciful personality by whose mere way one becomes purified after bathing in the waters of the sacred Ganges many times? But just the sight of you purifies the fallen souls. This is your great power. The holy name delivers one who is offended, Lord Hari. But if one offends you, there is no means of deliverance. Your heart is always the resting place of Lord Govinda, and Lord Govinda says, the Vaishnavas are in my heart. I desire the dust of your holy feet in every birth I may take. Please consider Narottama yours, and be kind upon him. Beautiful poem. So, here is the story of Narottama Das Thakur. So, the story of Narottama Das Thakur starts with the story of his spiritual master, Lokanath Goswami. Lokanath Goswami and Bhugarbha Goswami were sent to Vrindavan to prepare the ground for the other Goswamis who came later on. Chat. Then, so anyway, Lokanath Goswami was sent there because actually Lord Chaitanya did not want Lokanath Goswami to see him as a sannyasi, because basically Lokanath Goswami would feel too much lamentation seeing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cutting off all of his beautiful long hair. In fact, that happened. There's even someone named Chaitanya Das, who was the father of Sri. When he saw the sannyasa ceremony of Lord Chaitanya, he just couldn't keep from chanting Chaitanya, Chaitanya, Chaitanya. Therefore, he became known as Chaitanya Das. And so we worship Lord Chaitanya with his hair. You don't have Gaudiya deities that are bald with little dundas. So that, anyway, so after he went to Vrindavan, he tried to meet Lord Chaitanya in South India, and then he heard Lord Chaitanya, this is Lokanath Goswami now. Then he heard Lord Chaitanya was in Braj, and he went back to Braj. Then he heard he was in Prayag, and he wanted to go there, but it wasn't his fortune to see Lord Chaitanya, at least externally. So Lord Chaitanya appeared in a dream and said, stay in Vrindavan, and we are never separated. Narottama Das Thakur will become your disciple. Wow. So, that's one part of the story. Another part is, once upon a time, Lord Chaitanya visited Keturi. And while he was there, that's where Narottama appeared, he would cry out, Narottama, Narottama, you know, the best of the persons, Uttama, Nara, best of men. And so as he was bathing in the Padma River, he told the devotees he was depositing his prema in the Padma River. And he just described Narottama Das Thakur as he was bathing. So later on, Narottama Das Thakur took birth in that same location, and the astrologer predicted he would be the best of men, and that's why he was called Narottama, from his horoscope. At his grain ceremony, he refused to take any grains until they were offered to the Lord. And he was the Krishna Nanda, so it wasn't a Brahmin family. So there was some criticism of that. You know, sometimes these king families were actually considered like Shudra or low caste families. Narayani was his mother. At 12 years of age, she had a dream. And in that dream, Lord Nityananda told him, go to the Padma and bathe. And so he went to the Padma River and bathed. And he came back golden colored, you know, completely golden colored. And he was just like immersed in love of God and chanting the holy names. And he became completely apathetic to life. His parents were in complete anxiety, you know, what are we going to do with our son? And they had, similar to Raghunath Das Goswami, and he felt like, basically, he felt like he was in prison. But he had good association. There was a devotee named Krishna Das, who related the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and the associates. and told him about Srinivasacharya, who would be his good friend later on. So his mood, he was intensely hankering to go join Srinivasacharya and serve Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he had a dream. And in that dream, Lord Chaitanya appeared and said, "You will be initiated by Lokanath Goswami." So one day, he escaped from home. But by the time he got to Vrindavan, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami had already passed away. And of course, Jiva Goswami was still there, and Raghunath Das Goswami was still there. But Rupa and Sanatana had passed away. And just before he got to Vrindavan, Srinivas Acharya, who was also second generation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had a dream. And that dream, he was told by Lord Chaitanya that Narottama was coming the next day. And there he met, that is, Narottama met the remaining Goswamis when he got there. And he eventually went to Lokanath Goswami and asked him for initiation. And Lokanath Goswami said, "Now not to accept any disciples." And so in order to serve the person whom he knew he would be taking initiation from, he started to clean the latrine every day. Basically, latrine means like the hole in the ground or something like that. And eventually his guru, Lokanath Goswami, looked out and just wondered who was cleaning, and then he just was watching one day and he saw Narottama cleaning the latrine. And then, but he still didn't want to give initiation. But then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to him in a dream and chastised him and said, "Give him initiation." So then he got trained in philosophy by Srila Jiva Goswami, along with his friend Srinivas and another devotee named Shaimananda. So after they got trained in philosophy by Jiva Goswami, who we mentioned the previous day when we went to Radhakund, because Jiva Goswami was known erudite scholar practically of all time, and published the Shat-Shandarbhas, the 6 treatises on Krishna consciousness, beginning with epistemology all the way up to the highest levels of prema. Anyway, so Jiva Goswami sent him, Shaimananda, and Srinivas on traveling Sankirtan. And they took the books of the Goswamis that were handwritten, and they took them to Bengal, and on the way to Bengal, the books were stolen by this king named Virahambira, because he had this Virahambira had an astrologer, and the astrologer said there's something very valuable coming. And basically Virahambira eventually opened up the whole chest in which the books were, and he saw the writing of Rupa Goswami, and then he had a dream that he would later be initiated by Srinivasacharya, and he did. And Virahambira made it a rule he could live in his kingdom unless they chanted, or at least worship Krishna. So, getting on with Narottama, Thakura later would weep, and he was given a spurti, or a vision. In other words, he saw it as it was when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there. He visited and Vasudha, the 2 wives of Lord Nityananda, and visited Puri, Ekachakra, and in Ekachakra, Lord Nityananda, of course, had already in disguise guided him around Ekachakra, gave him a whole tour. Then and in Kateri, he had a dream. So, because we have to be careful ourselves, we have so many dreams, shouldn't take it so seriously. For your pure devotee like Prabhupada, Prabhupada had dreams of his spiritual master saying to him, come with me, and Prabhupada said he was horrified, because that meant taking sannyas. And Prabhupada wasn't just like making that up. Prabhupada was very responsible. Obviously he didn't want to leave a situation he felt responsibility for. So in Kateri Gram, Narottama Das Thakur dreamt that there was a deity storage place. And so he went to this go down and he said, "Can I look there?" You know, there was rice in there and everything like that. And the owner said, "You have my permission, but it's filled with snakes, venomous snakes." And so he went there and the snakes just like, I wouldn't say ran away. Snakes don't slither away. And he found deities there of Lord Chaitanya and Vishnu Priya in this go down. And then he arranged for two other sets of deities to be, and he, what is considered to be the first major, and in that festival, Janavamata was there. Janavamata, of course, is the wife of Lord Nityananda. She was also a guru, interestingly enough. And all some who were quite conservative. So anyway, Janavamata was there. Lord Chaitanya and his associates all appeared during the kirtan of Narottama Das Thakur. That's how powerful his kirtan was. He had special style kirtan, just chanting, and then all Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Srivas, Gadadhar, they were dancing in ecstasy during the kirtan, and after the kirtan they all went away. What a kirtan. And during this festival, they had this holy festival, they were all throwing red dye at each other. But there was a problem too. The Brahmanas were really upset because Narottama was a lower caste and he was initiating people with higher castes and acting as a guru. They said he's the Shudra. And, you know, that his particular caste was considered like almost like Shudra caste. So they went to the king, whose name was Narasingha. And the king called for his best scholars to defeat Narottama Das Thakur. So, the best scholars was known as Rupa Narayana. And so Narayana's two foremost disciples decided to play a trick on this Rupa. Oh, you got a copy. Bless you. Bless you, God. Thank you. You are blissful. So, Narottama Das Thakur had two disciples named Ramchandra Chakravarti, Ramchandra Chakravarti Kaviraj, and Ganga Narayan Chakravarti. Actually, Ramchandra was a disciple. Disciples. And so what they did is when this Rupa Narayan was coming with his other big scholars, before Narottama, they set up shop. Ordinary shopkeepers like, Pan and whatever, and this Rupa Narayan and his people, they wanted to buy stuff, so they went to the shop. And these two shopkeepers, who were actually the most erudite scholars, began to script. And, Rupa Narayan was saying, "Well, who's your guru?" And they said, "Well, Narottama Das Thakur." They thought of disciples like that, we're not going to argue with them. That night, had a dream, and his worshipable deity, Durga, came to him and said to him, "Surrender to Narottama Das Thakur, else I'm going to kill you." So he did, obviously. And then the king and the queen got initiated by Narottama Das Thakur. That's one story. Another story is, once upon a time, there was a dacoit, a Gudha. His name was Chandroy, and he committed so many sinful activities that he became ghostly haunted. And his father was a great devotee. His father went to Narottama Das Thakur, asked him to to save his son, and Chand Roy got saved, became a great devotee. And once he became a great devotee, the king, who was a Yavan, there's so many kings in India. When we talk about kings, it's not like, that means like a village or a province. So he took advantage of this Chand Roy becoming humble, and he put him in prison. And while he was in prison, the father of Chand Roy had a plan to get him out of prison. And that plan was he wanted a follower of Durga who had this mystic power that he could teleport himself from one place to another by chanting certain Durga mantras. And then he would go and grab Chand Roy and, teleport him out of prison. So he went into the prison. He showed up in Chand Roy's prison one day. He says, "Come with me. Just chant this mantra, Om Durgaya Namaha." And Narottama said, Chand Roy says, "I will not chant any other mantra other than those given." He was so chaste like that. And so he remained in prison, and then what happens, the king decided to kill him. And they had interesting ways of killing people in those days. He brought a big, mad elephant to trample Chand Roy. And the elephant came out, and Chand Roy had so much faith in Narottama Das Thakur, he just grabbed the elephant's trunk and pulled his nose off, the trunk off. So the king got a little humble at that point and released him. Narottama Das Thakur also had who was the disciple of Srinivasacharya, but basically Siksha disciple of Narottama Das Thakur. And it's described that one time Ramchandra Kaviraj got a letter from his wife, because he had never been with his wife, basically. You hear all these stories. I'll tell you a story about Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur in a second. So he got a letter to go see his wife, and Narottama Das Thakur ordered him. Wife already. And so Ramchandra Kaviraj got about 100 feet away from where Narottama Das Thakur was. And he just started sweeping the temple there. And Narottama Das Thakur looked, and he saw him there, and Ramchandra Kaviraj felt so guilty that he started hitting himself with the broom. And Narottama just said, "You're hitting me." So close was the Vaishnava relationship. And so then he said, "You don't have to go." The story about Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur is even more interesting. That he was ordered by his guru to go see his wife. I'm not saying don't worry. Not against wives. These are special personalities. I got to preface it all. Just don't worry. Nalini Kant's not going to be told any of these things. So anyway, but this is Vishwanath. All across India, and he was told, spend the night with your wife. So he goes in, and his wife was there, in the bedroom, whatever, and he just chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna the whole night. In the morning, he gets up, walks away, joins his guru again. Not suggesting that these are pastimes that are really not meant to be emulated. So, anyway, so also he was so attached. Narottama Das Thakur was so attached to Ramchandra Chakrabarti, and also to Srinivasacharya. When they both went to Vrindavan, and Narottama Das Thakur found out that they had left their bodies, he decided to leave his body. This famous poem, Yenilo Premadana Korana Prachur. Saparshada Gora Viraha, separation from the Vaishnavas. So, anyway, Narottama decided to leave his body in sort of a pyre, and he uses mystic power to leave his body. But what happened is when he was doing that, the Brahmanas started jeering, making fun of him, saying, "Look, this is so inauspicious. so inauspicious, you know, he's leaving his body on a funeral pile. And so he did this for 3 and it wasn't lit, of course. And disciples Ganga, Narayan, Chakravarti pleaded with him, this is ruining our preaching and your reputation. So Narottama Das Thakur stood up and got off the funeral pyre, and he manifested on his own chest a golden Brahmin thread, because he didn't have a Brahmin thread at that time, because he was from. See, Brahmin threads were only given in those days. They were Vaishnava, or someone took Vaishnava initiation, you weren't given a Brahmin thread. Unless you had it when you were like 5, 6 years old. You know, that was the standard, coming from a Brahmin family. So he manifested a golden Brahmin thread, and everyone chanted, Radha Krishna Chaitanya, him to leave this world. He went into the Ganges, and he told his disciples to and pour Ganges water over him, and his body dissolved into the Ganges. It became like a milky substance, and his samadhi is called the Dugdha. The samadhi means like milk. Milk samadhi, and some people say that's still preserved in a container today in a temple. I'm not sure where that temple is. And Narottama Das Thakur was the exponent of different types of kirtan. Basically, these were, in many cases, it was like Leela kirtan, you know, which is very interesting, describing Krishna's Leela, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, and also some of the songs that we're familiar with, especially the song we chanted today about Vaishnavas, from his different books like Prarthana, Prema Bhakti, Chandrika, and we are chanting every morning in the ISKCON temples the Guru prayers, you know, not the Guru Vastika prayers, but in Guru Push, Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma. Oh, Gato Touch. So we're just finishing the class. Good to see you. So that's Narottama Das Thakur. Whoops. The story of Chad and Roy I told already. Let's see, I think that's all it. Okay. Any questions or comments? Keep it short since we're leaving tomorrow. Questions, comments? Yes.
Regarding Kirtan, Narottama Das did Kirtan in Bengal, right?
Bengali. Yeah, Prabhupada said that he was one of the first to present Krishna consciousness in simple Bengali, so people can understand.
Is it an encouragement, or did we do songs in our own language, or?
If I say it on the internet, I'll get kicked out of the Hare Krishna movement. But I would, not in the temples. I would say, you know, the standard temple procedure you should stick to the tradition. Now, on the other hand, when doing programs, yes, I think it's, if someone is qualified, because Narottama Das Thakur is a pure devotee of Krishna, and he's certainly qualified. If someone is qualified, we can have at least translations of certain songs, and then then people can relate to them. Yes, I think for preaching purposes, for new people, it's helpful to have translations. Songs in English. Did you know that? Prabhupada wrote poetry, adore, adore you all, you know, to his spiritual master. So Prabhupada also did that. So, but it should be done very carefully. I mean, sometimes, yeah, Prabhupada appreciated this one devotee's album, Change of Heart, Mangalananda. What is it? And it was interesting. It was interesting. We used to play it in the temples all the time, in the kitchen while we were cooking and things like that. But, you know, Prabhupada appreciated it, and I think Prabhupada wanted it utilized more for preaching, outside preaching, than actually in the temple. Like that. But certainly, yes, for attracting people. we need songs in all the languages. I don't see anything wrong with it. The standard programs in the temples should generally be in the standard Sanskrit or Bengali, following the tradition. I remember years ago there was one person who sort of deviated, and he had the Guru Vashtaka in English. It was in a temple in West Virginia that shall remain nameless to protect the innocent. So, and also he, everyone was sitting on chairs, and he had an organ, which was all right, it's a harmonium, big harmonium. He had an organ with big pipe organ in the temple room, and the devotees would sit with candles, like in a monastery. So I remember I went there just to, just to try to bring them back to Krishna consciousness, and the devotees were dressed in monks' robes.
Wasn't Prabhupada dressed up
Long,
as
what?
Jesus?
What's that?
Wasn't Prabhupada dressed up as Jesus or something?
Yeah. They had Prabhupada dressed up as Jesus, and then they had a big statue of Prabhupada outside, about 50 feet tall. What?
His name was
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, yeah. Prabhupada. So they were trying to reach out, like Krishna. It wasn't exactly Krishna West, it was Krishna whatever. So I went there for Mangalarti, and they were actually chanting or intoning like in a church, intoning the English. Spiritual master, taking benediction from the ocean of mercy.
Oh my gosh.
There weren't the exact words. I mean, they had poeticized it. And it was, Radha Vrindavan Chandra was still there, the deities. And they had a deity on the Vyasa. And they had, then in Prabhupada's palace, they depicted Prabhupada as a king. They put a crown on him, caves and everything like that, and a scepter. Like kings have their scepter and everything like that. What?
I agree with 50% of what they did.
Really?
Yes, because you have the idea of unity and diversity. I heard some guru speak like that, Srila Prabhupada's just appearance day recently. That you have different people.
That was me.
There are different types of worship that they want to do. I don't think it's right to laugh at everything that they did.
Well, first of all, it was changing Prabhupada's system inside a temple. And
but you have unity and diversity.
But it didn't attract anybody.
That's true.
Yeah, it was simply based upon somebody. See, if you go back in the history, this same person did the same thing, and Prabhupada chastised him for it.
Yeah, but at the same time,
listen to this. When Prabhupada was on the planet, he did that. Not in this wholesale way, and Prabhupada chastised him for it.
he was saying he was God too, isn't it?
Yeah, but Prabhupada chastised him for the dressing with the monks' robes. And it's just that we don't really have the right to change what goes on inside Prabhupada's temples. If you have a preaching center, you can do. First of all, it wasn't effective at attracting people. And secondly, I'm all for adjusting the presentation to attract people.
Well, you were talking before about how you liked the idea of a pew.
Yeah, well, Prabhupada liked the idea of a pew.
Right.
Actually, Prabhupada in Los Angeles, in the church building, that's my geo. So Prabhupada in the what's my alert? 90% daily data. So Prabhupada in the Los Angeles temple was a church before, and there were pews there, and Prabhupada said to leave the pews there, but not in the temple room. He wanted it as a lecture hall where he can give lectures.
So how does unity, and see, this is the thing I've been thinking about ever since your lecture at Srila
Yeah.
Prabhupada's Disappearance Day. Very seriously, how do we incorporate unity and diversity if there's no room for any sort of different look? For instance, Harinam in the United States is freakish nowadays.
Yeah.
So how, there's no, you're not going to make people Indian.
Oh, I
in the
agree.
United States.
I agree 100% with that.
And the whole system in the United States for temples, it's all just become Indian. When I was a 5-year-old kid in the temples, I didn't want to be Indian.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is the temple room itself, where you have the deities and everything like that, it's a very traditional scene. You could have other rooms where, this is like we do our Krishna West program. You have other rooms or other centers where other things are happening. But if you're gonna have deity worship, you understand what I mean? Then it should be done the way that Prabhupada wanted it. I mean, we have our Krishna West program, and we do all sorts of things, except dress naked. Like Mahamantra, he was chanting English songs in the Krishna West program. I went to the Krishna West program with Western clothes on. But what I discovered is that people didn't respect me as much. So I'm all into adapting and changing and everything like that. But, the deity worship itself, I'm a firm believer that deity worship can't be messed with. It's a traditional thing. Like, I couldn't imagine someone going on with blue jeans.
Well, imagine how people nowadays would laugh at someone like Narottama Das Thakur for his type of kirtan. If you actually hear people who do that type of kirtan, and all of a sudden you were to drop that in the United States without somebody had heard it before, they would laugh.
Yeah.
It's actually true. They would laugh at them. And so whenever I hear people laughing at some Kakamani devotee, I still think about that. I'm thinking we shouldn't laugh.
Well, let me try to think about that for a second. Whether we should laugh at that or not. Perhaps you're right, we shouldn't laugh at him, but this particular devotee had severe psychological problems.
Well, Srila Prabhupada said put him in an institution.
Yeah, he was in a mental institution.
Srila Prabhupada said put him back.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely in a mental institution. Prabhupada at one point told him he wasn't welcome in any of the temples. So, and the people there who were going along with him were actually, afterwards, they were shocked that they actually had gone along with him. In other words, they had given in to insanity.
Yeah.
And they realized it. They realized, even one of our present members of the GBC was dressed in monk's robes when I was there. And the whole idea was that this is better for preaching in the United States. It wasn't. I mean, it was just monk's robes. And the people in the United States are generally not Eastern Orthodox monks. So, I mean, but my response was, when I went there, this is ridiculous. That was my honest response was that it was ridiculous. And it was a deviation. Yeah.
But when I heard that the first time, and now that I remember that, the first thing that came to mind is just didn't make sense that they were actually copying monastic life, which is not for preaching.
Yeah, and even the dress was not a Western dress. It was more like Eastern Orthodox.
Yeah, the monks usually go and they just go in solitude. They don't preach.
Yeah.
And they were imitating that.
Yeah, it was like,
weird.
in other words, to me, it wasn't just a change for preaching. It was like if I walked into an insane asylum, and maybe I shouldn't laugh at the crazy people, and someone said he was Napoleon. See, that's where my humor comes from. It was so.
But people were laughing and all sorts of sannyasis back then.
Yeah.
So whenever I hear people laughing a little too much, I do get
No,
concerned.
I understand that.
You know, I would travel around in a Volkswagen bus, and then after that a minivan, and after that, over the years, and you go around to these different temples, and people would always laugh at the local sannyasi. Everybody laughed. I
Yeah,
would
well,
always be
that's
quiet.
not good.
I'd always just sit in the back and wonder, why are they laughing?
That's not good. No, I mean, obviously, that's not good. But this was like walking into an insane asylum.
It was funny. I remember Prabhupada.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, Prabhupada was great.
I mean, you probably laughed too. So-
I liked it. I thought it was funny.
So if I can't laugh, you laugh.
But at the same time, there's like, we start talking about the people, and I don't know, and everybody's laughing. I just like freeze up.
You know, I
It's just
understand.
like-
I understand your reaction, but it was quite hilarious. And actually, what they had to do, ultimately, was to bury that Prabhupada, and to depict Prabhupada with a scepter, in a king's outfit.
It's kind of cool. Honestly, as a kid growing up, seeing that, it was pretty cool. And you're like, hey, yeah, he's the king.
Yeah, but just thinking about what Prabhupada would say.
You would laugh. Like you probably
And then
say it's
he'd
pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. No, he'd say, "Where does this nonsense come from?"
You probably wear the crown for a second and then be like, sell this and buy
No, Prabhupada. Kirtananda did something similar when Prabhupada was on the planet. And Prabhupada said he's not allowed in any of our temples. So Prabhupada was really happy about that stuff.
Yeah, he got a lot of trouble.
He got a lot of trouble.
It does seem like this topic of unity and diversity is something that is actually required of quite mature devotees
Yeah.
to understand where it fits in to diversify yourselves, to be inclusive to others, or to share the... I come from a Native American background, and everything I was taught as a child as a Native American is the exact same thing that I was retaught in Krishna consciousness with different names. We had Mangalarsi, we always offered our food
Wow.
before we ate. I mean, like so many different things.
They even have the culture understanding that before you kill an animal, you say in its ear, you can kill me next time.
Yeah, there's this understanding of
Wow,
karma.
that's pretty good.
Same thing with plants. There was this tap 3 times before you pull
You
a
pull
plant
out
out of
the
the
ground.
ground because they have a soul. And so you're saying I'm taking your life and I understand that's what I'm doing, but I have to eat.
That's great.
So anyway, my point of that is just that unity and diversity, it's so necessary. But for someone to actually apply that properly, as we've seen,
Yeah.
you just have to be so mature, and it gets messy very quickly, obviously.
You can really get off the rails pretty quickly. And not only in that case, I've seen other cases like that where people really get off the rails trying to be diverse. But in this particular case, it was not unity, it was insanity.
Yeah.
Oh, I know it was.
It was group insanity.
We can figure out as a society in
Yeah.
the long term.
I think
Yeah.
I guess why I basically froze up is because after a while, laughter like that,
Mm.
it just reminds me of the same kind of crazy thing people ended up doing, making offenses to each other, and they all
Well,
went
that's not-
crazy.
Well, that's not good.
I mean, that's why people went crazy, because they were laughing too much.
Yeah, no, you can't make fun of Vaishnavas who are trying their best. But in this case, it was insanity.
Yes.
It was
No, you're right.
it was definitely insanity.
I'm sorry. It's just.
I mean, I guess you could say, well, if I go into a mental institution, I start laughing at the person who thinks he's Napoleon, it's actually not proper because he's suffering. In that sense, I mean, I agree with you.
And I'm sorry, I got triggered with that one. 'cause
No,
I
that's
just-
fine. That's
I
fine.
remember, growing up like that.
That's fine. I mean, I generally don't laugh at people like that. But it was insane.
Hmm?
It was insane, seeing a 50-foot tall Prabhupada
Yeah.
outside and seeing Prabhupada dressed and then Lord Jesus Christ up there. It was just like, and my initial reaction was, oh my God. oh my God, where am I? And then they were trying to preach to me to do the same thing when I went there.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then one devotee almost left the movement because of
I
that.
was gonna say, I remember Gopal.
Gopal got so freaked out by the whole thing that I don't want to tell the story about him. But, you know, he just almost left the whole movement. Because he was just a new devotee. He just said, I'll take you to New Vrindavan, and then like that. So,
Gurudev,
yeah.
unity in diversity does not mean mixing and matching. Like unity
It
in
means
diversity,
keeping the principles,
tradition.
and the details can be adjusted. But, you know, it takes a lot of maturity to figure out what, like, for example, in China, you mentioned about the American Indian, so this is something very similar. That in China, practically all the kirtans are with the Chinese instruments. And the people don't dress in dhotis and saris, they dress in, at least when they're in China, they dress in the traditional Chinese clothes. I was watching one play, it was a video of a play, and it was like Chinese music and Chinese mimes and things like that. And it was done very nicely. The devotees were, and they were having Chinese prasadam, you know, chop suey or whatever it is. Or that's Japanese. Chop suey. Anyway, whatever, you know, and the devotees were all eating their prasadam with chopsticks. I mean, that's fine. Those are details. But, you know, one devotee one time suggested that we could dress Radha and Krishna with blue jeans on. You know, whether that's funny or not, but it's just like, you know, maybe Krishna does wear blue jeans. I don't know, but it's not our tradition. There's certain traditional things, to me, they're sacrosanct, like the deities. You know, obviously, we don't dress the deities the way Krishna looked. That's an interesting thing, because, you know, Krishna wore a yellow dhoti, or yellow cloth. And Krishna didn't wear these gigantic headdresses that would, you know, that would cause you to break your neck. Isn't it? You see some of the deities clothes, it's just like, we're not actually dressing Krishna the way Krishna dressed over 5,000 years ago. But I'd be really hesitant to, you know, so we're going to attract Western people to put Krishna on a motorcycle or something like that.
They do that with Ganesh here.
I
in
know.
India, and it's
I mean, that's, to me, not only hesitant, I'd never do it. And, you know, the deity worship, those ritual things, to me, they have to remain pretty much traditional. I mean, I'm all for the guitar and the whatever, the flute and everything like that being used. But with the deities, I mean, just like in one temple, and please don't laugh, one temple they had Radha and Krishna dressed as Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus.
I remember that.
It's just like, you know, who's Radha and Krishna? We have certain sacrosanct beliefs, or, you know, Shastra things, kept sacred. But, you know, kirtan, you can use any instruments. I don't care if people come to the temple dressed in whatever type of clothes, as long as they're dressed. The whole point is to be respectful when you come to see the deities. But there's certain sacred things to me. I don't care if you have kirtans in English, you can do that, but there's certain, like the deity worship, going on the altar and the deity worship and, you know, Achman and things like that, I think that have to remain in that same way. Yeah, so anyway. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, we shouldn't be laughing at when people, I mean, to go into if I go into a mental institution and someone thinks he's Napoleon, it wouldn't be appropriate to laugh at him. Or God. Well, if he's God, that's a different thing, you know. Someone thinks he's God. Yes, God. I mean, people came before Prabhupada And sometimes the Prabhupada given a class and Prabhupada, they say, I'm God. And Prabhupada would sometimes react in interesting ways. I'm God, I'm self-realized. Okay, any other questions? Or comments? Yes?
I think having really good prasadam and very nice kirtans is like pretty much we can never lose that. If we always have that, we'll always be able to preach to anyone in
Yes.
this group and from any part of the world.
Really nice Western prasadam.
Yeah. I think the unity and diversity is like in like a needle, you know, out like a plow.
That is actually really intelligent.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's your mercy. I'm just an instrument, no fool. Just a foolish.
Yeah, I mean, so we need Western prasad. You know, I'm the first one to say the type of bhoga that we offer to the deities and serve to the devotees is killing them. I'm the first one to say that, you know. I even gave seminars entitled Stop Killing the Devotees. They were not popular with everybody.
Lecture about, no, it was an interview with one of the
The
devotees
doctor,
in
yeah,
Germany.
doctors, yeah.
It was really nice.
All right, I think we have to go. We have to leave tomorrow. I'm sure you'll all be happy that we're gone. So, is the car coming? Or?